First of all, I think another round of applause for the sisters who were up here dancing. That's not even dancing, that's what we're doing. Second of all, I'm so glad to have a mic clipped to my tie and not having any Trump supporter to my left or my right. I'm very, very, very happy about that. I'm very happy about that. So, therapy is so expensive. So look, we had planned a very different panel. We actually think this is an incredible opportunity for us to really talk about where we are, how we got here, and also what are the opportunities going forward. We all pretty good friends here and have a lot to say. I'm going to say a few opening words, but not a lot, and then we're just going to get into it. Fundamentally, I think the biggest danger that we have is actually misreading the moment. I think that we've gone from saying Trump is a joke, Trump is an idiot, Trump can't win, ain't nobody gonna vote for him, Hillary was so impressive in the debates.
That's true.
Right. We've got this, oh silly orange boy, and then totally underestimating him to now he's God and we're dead, right? And I think that dramatic swing from he is not a threat to he's going to destroy everything, I think is a big part of the problem. I see a couple of things I think are important. First of all, his coalition is not as stable as it looks. This is not a Republican takeover. It's an alliance between populists and conservatives. And they don't actually agree on everything. Now, they agree that they hate us, so that sucks. But there are real differences. Trump wants to tear up TPP. Paul Ryan wants to pass TPP. Paul Ryan wants to privatize Social Security and Medicare. Trump doesn't want anything like that at all. So they're going to have their own differences internally that they have to manage and sequence, and there are ways for them to get that wrong and have a bunch of problems. Also, their voting coalition. You would think, if you listen to liberals, that 60 million Klan members just revealed themselves in the voting booth. And, all of Trump's voters share all of his most despicable views. I don't think that's right. When you talk to them, when you look at the data, it is true that bigoted statements from Trump that would be disqualifying for us are not disqualifying for them. But that doesn't mean that they endorse them or that they agree with them or that they want them. It just means that they have a higher tolerance for bullshit than we do. But that's a distinction that's really important. It means that on some issues, even people who voted for Trump would be with us. There are people who've told me that they voted for Trump, but if he does anything hostile toward American Muslims, they'll be in the streets. Okay? So we have to actually look at his voting coalition and how the majority of people who voted for him say they don't trust him, don't like him, and think he has a bad temper. The majority of people who voted for him, there's instability on that side. Also, on our side, this is going to strike you as very odd. We are less alone now than we've ever been.
That's right.
We are less alone now than we've ever been. This is a big, what do the kids say? This is a big woke machine. Is that?
That's right.
Is that,
I'm awake.
that's it, right?
Awake.
Right? Much as we would rather have something else, tens of millions of white people are heartbroken and shocked and do not know what to do. Tens of millions of people of color are shocked and heartbroken and kicking themselves for not voting or for not working harder, et cetera. There are people on Wall Street, people in Silicon Valley, people in Hollywood, people in DC who now will answer a call. So I think rather than, and by the way, the majority of Americans voted against this guy. So I think it's just important that as we have the conversation, and we do need to talk about the emotional reality, and we do need to talk about where our folks are, honestly where they are, we also need to recognize that when tens of millions of people are feeling the same way, there's some strength there. There's some opportunity there. And I'm very, very convinced by what I've seen just in the past several days, that if the people in this room, and if the organizations in this room decide that they want to go big on opposition, and beautiful on opposition, and amazing on opposition, I think people will be shocked by how responsive our communities and allies are. So give yourselves a round of applause for being in a position to begin the fight back. So, now I don't mean to be rude, but when you have a congressperson on the stage in my business, they have to go first. Please give a round of applause for the congresswoman out of our movement, out of our movement. Get about a dozen more of you and we'll be all right. How are your constituents feeling, and what are you beginning to think about in this moment?
Well, first of all, huge props to Race Forward. Unbelievable gathering, just what we need right now. And I'll tell you, I almost wasn't going to come because it has been crazy and really, really intense. But the reason I came is because this is the room I want to be in right now.
That's right.
And we are feeling the same thing that everybody else is here, constituents. So I just got elected to the 7th Congressional District in Washington State. And I want to take just a minute to talk about how that happened, because this is the movement we're building, right? I'm a longtime activist, organizer, got into politics because I believe we need to organize on the inside. And we need really good people on the inside pushing, organizing, building the movement, building different kinds of structures. And we knocked on 170,000 doors. We made over 250,000 phone calls. We had 1,100 active volunteers. Many people have never been involved in democracy before. We had 77,000 people across the country contribute to raising $3 million for the campaign. Woo! With an average contribution of $23, no corporate PAC money, all funded by individuals.
That's right.
So I tell you that because this is our victory, and there are others across the country. Ilhan in Minnesota. Woo! All right, let's give it up, right? Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada. Woo! And when you think about the people who are getting elected, it is a lot of women of color who are right there bringing all of the different pieces together. So I just want to highlight that, partly because I need it. I need some love, given how tough it's been to celebrate, but also because we need it, because that is the movement we're building. So yes, the day after the election, and I found out that I had won my election literally right around the time that we found out that Donald Trump had won. And so you can imagine how unbelievably bittersweet it was. People were weeping, just as I'm sure we all have been. But also people were trying to find those places of light, and I think Van summed up many of them really beautifully, because how many of you have heard that we got to double down? Whatever time I was giving before, I'm going to give 10 times more, right? From the people around you. So this is an opportunity, and I think that we got to be in the space of protection for sure, and making sure we are standing and protecting people that need us to be right there for all of us together. But then we've also got a plan, and I know that sounds really boring, but let's come up with our jujitsu moves, because there will be a lot of attacks, and we have got to figure out and speak through and really understand for ourselves if Donald Trump is going to, for example, move a minimum wage. I mean, this is not as simple like what Van said. If you look at Arizona, how many Arizona people are in the room? I don't know if Petra Falcone is here, but here we go, Arizona, look at you guys. You kicked out, I mean, Arizona went for Trump, but you kicked out Joe Arpaio. Right? And you passed a minimum wage increase in Arizona. So this is important to understand, that we're going to have to figure out how we work through some of the things that Trump may do that we might even want, because as Van said, it's not all coordinated, right? It's not all one thing. But then also figure out how we launch the biggest opposition possible to stop all of the stuff that's out there. So thank you all. I'm really happy to be here.
Yay!
When I was on set the night that this whole dumpster fire went down,
We saw you.
White lash.
and they seated us at 7 o'clock, which is usual, because on those big game nights, I'm part of the team that's on called, it's like a super prime time, so 7 p.m. to 1 in the morning, so prime time on both coasts. And so they seated us at 7 p.m. And, you know, it's not like this. I mean, you can't get up. It's, you know, and 8, 9, 10, 11. But nothing that we were prepared for happened. So they never came to us. So we're literally just sitting there, all of us, you know, the Trump folks, myself, for hours. And the text messages started coming in as people started realizing what was happening. And all my Muslim friends were very impacted, very afraid. And you know, my firm belief is that our primary responsibility is solidarity with the Muslim community, especially given the level of already vigilante activity being directed, especially at Muslim women. I wonder how you are experiencing this. We were just talking backstage. I just think it'd be very useful. And if you could tell the powers that be in Hollywood, Madison Avenue, where we know tons of liberals are, what they should do or could do. What are the kinds of things that would be useful to your community right now?
Thank you, Van, and I'm so honored and blessed to be on the stage with all of you. And I just literally got here this morning. I wasn't going to be at Facing Race either, but I also, like Pramila, wanted to be in a space with all of you and just get your energy and your love. And I'm grateful for every single one of you in this room and for the hope that you give me in a time of where many people are feeling despair. I mean, personally, many of you know who I am and what I do, and I, for the first time in a long time, sat and sobbed with my own family, with my own children, who literally kept asking me, why, how did this happen, this can't be, this doesn't make any sense. And for the first time in my life, as someone who thinks I know everything, that's what I'm known for, I actually didn't have any answers, and it actually didn't make sense to me either. And what really got me into the moment, and what has gotten the Muslim community in the moment, is that we've had these moments for 15 years already. This is our second 9/11 moment, you know, when we just don't know what's going on. We don't know what's about to happen. And 15 years of organizing that I have done, my community is in a way worse position than we were even days and weeks and months after 9/11. So for someone like me who's an organizer, yeah, I won a little bit here and there, but I almost feel like I've lost a lot more than I've actually won over the past 15 years. And what I want people to know in this room is that, and the other thing people know me for is I'm gonna keep it real. Like, that's, right now there is no room for let's reframe and frame, and we're family in this room, so we gotta keep it straight. There's a couple of things that I want people to know from this room, and I want us to agree on in this room, is that there's no room for oppression in Olympics right now. There is no room, I'm more worse off than you are, I'm more, you know why? Like, if I'm up here saying I'm Muslim, or you hear a Muslim woman saying, I'm afraid, I'm afraid for my safety, that doesn't mean I don't mean black people also aren't afraid. I don't mean undocumented people. I don't mean trans or people of color, I mean queer people of color or queer people. This idea that if I don't mention you, that means that I don't include you. Give me the benefit of the doubt as your sister that I do mean you. But I want us to see each other's pain. When you see my pain, I want you to see yourself in me. I don't have to say you. You say, that's my sister. And when she cries, I cry. When she's hurt, I'm hurt. This is the kind of movement that we need right now. Number two. Now I'm talking to white folks. My white people. The white people listening now? I love you white people. All right? It doesn't take a lot of courage for me to stand up to Donald Trump. It doesn't take a lot of courage to stand up to Arpaio. I mean, it does for people of color, obviously, in the undocumented. I'm talking to white folks now. But it takes a lot of courage for you to stand up to your family members and to the people that you love, because that's what we need right now. And number two, when there's that Muslim registration program that starts, the first 8,000 people on that line better be white people, and you all better be telling people that you're Muslim. So this is why I'm here. And the last thing that I'll say before you hear from some other remarkable colleagues of mine who are on the stage is that the first people who are going to get targeted under a law and order regime are going to be the people that are the most visible from the movements we come from. You already know who those people are. So I want you to watch out for each other and watch out for us and watch out for people of color, watch out for black women, watch out for queer people on the front lines, because those are the first people they're going after. And they're already going after us. They've already been going after us. They were going after us under the first black president. You don't think they're going to go after when there's a bunch of KKK white supremacists in the White House? So sisters and brothers, what I'm asking you to leave here today is let's put whatever differences and tactics and strategies we have to the side, because all we got is each other. All I got is you. I don't got nothing else. So send love to your Muslim sisters and brothers, to your undocumented sisters and brothers. We're all in this together. I'm hurt. I'm disappointed. My heart is broken. And I'll be honest with you, when people say, like you said, I'm going to fight even hard, I was fighting with everything that I had. I don't have any more to fight with, literally. I'm going to double down, and we're just going to. I was already burnt out. Like, I was like, I'm retiring in 2017. And then, so also be mindful of telling this to people when you see people, especially organizers who you've already seen on the front lines, and being like, y'all just going to fight harder, right? We're just good. I'm tired. So for those of you who haven't been all in it, this is your chance to take some load off of the rest of us and just say, I'm in it. And, sorry, man, it's therapy. Therapy. I got Obamacare, but I don't got behavioral health or dental health, so I'm waiting for my Iraqi sister to be a dentist so I can get some dental. One last thing, and this is not for people in this room, because I know the kind of people who come to Facing Race, but the other thing I don't got time for and nobody got time for in this movement is part-time progressives. You're either all in or you out. You out of the way. You're either going to stand up for all people, you're going to stand with the undocumented, with queer people, people of color, black people, black women, Muslims, or you don't stand for nobody. We ain't got time for the people that want to pick and choose. Oh, we'll stand with these people, but don't bring up Palestine. We ain't getting down with that Palestinian thing, you know, like, so spicy. So, right now, my question to you is to Van's point about 60 million people voted for Donald Trump, which means that there should be about 280 million of us left, right? I want to know if you want to be the moral compass of this nation at the time when they need it most. And I want to know if you want to be the example that we set for what our nation was always supposed to be about. And if we are going to really show what it means to organize in a radical way. And that don't mean like we're going to be too spicy out there. It just means that we're going to love each other so much, right? We're going to look out for each other so much. We're going to, when we criticize each other, we're going to do it with love, right? With some compassion. We're not going to tear each other down because ain't nobody got time for that right now, all right? So, sisters and brothers, my community is looking for you, right? For all of us, a multicultural coalition, multi-religious coalition, people with no faith, white people, whoever you are, to really watch us lead our next generation, generations to come of what it looks like when we love each other, when we protect each other, and when you look at me and say, sister, I'm ready to lay my life on the line for you, just like I'm ready to lay my life on the line for any of you in this room and your children.
You can keep talking. I mean, beautiful, powerful. You know, on this whole theme of solidarity, I'll just ask you the same question. How are folks feeling, and you know what's needed?
You looking at me?
Nope. We'll just go down this way, Marisa.
You know, with this whole election, there was a lot of different points of trying to figure out how best to engage. But I think one thing I feel, there's a lot of things that have changed as a result of the outcome, but one thing that hasn't changed that we've been saying steadily is that our vote is for social movement. Our hope is in social movement. And where we stand right now, that's what we got. You know, I woke up Wednesday morning and I just couldn't help but feel, you know, coming from Phoenix, couldn't help but feel that we woke up to a big, big, big red state. And, you know, I'm really thinking about, you know, one of the things we talked about a lot is that there's a lot of us who, for many of us, Trump's America is already here. For many of us, we already organize and live in red states. And so I think it's important to lift up and amplify the work that has been happening in these places and really learn from and talk to and dialogue with people that have already been facing this kind of situation. We're here in Atlanta. I'm specifically shouting out all my Southern family here,
That's right.
all the people that consistently, and you know, usually when we're talking about politics, it's like, well, the blue states or the places where you can pass all this, and then folks that you can't win nothing, it's like you're left to the side, right? I know Clinton wasn't coming to Arizona till the last week, right? Didn't come, and then the last week when it looked like maybe they were gonna try to pull it, all showing up. But there was no money there. There was no investment there. And so I just think it's a moment for us to really, you know, take stock of that. Because I do think that, you know, it can't be the pendulum where it's like doom and gloom and everything's screwed. It's actually, we've been living through this. We can learn from this.
Hey, speaking of, you know, the most disgusting person in the world is Donald Trump. But the second most disgusting person in the world is Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and you beat Sheriff Joe Arpaio. You beat him. So if anybody can try to understand how you go about beating a Trump, it would be somebody who beat a Trumpling. How'd you do it?
The people who he denigrated and abused are the people that took his ass out.
That's right. Woo! That's right.
And how? So the final, like, was a vote. But that's the ledge we pushed him off of. It was organizing. It was getting the Department of Justice to investigate him. It was direct action. It was undocumented people sitting in the damn street and saying, you're coming to our homes. You're coming to our work sites. We're tired of that. Here we are. Come get us. And so I just think, like, one thing we really tried to do in the Basta Arpaio campaign was, can you bring the direct action, I'm gonna get arrested, I'm gonna throw down, I'm gonna be in the street, people in the room with the folks that are like, we gotta knock the doors, I mean, where's the minivan, you know, all that whole thing. Can we get them to work together? And I would tell you, I didn't even know what a universe was. I was utterly confused. I was like, you mean constituency? Stop it. Some of you that do electoral organizing, you know what I'm talking about, how I was utterly like, and so we brought folks together. And I think one thing that's important to note about the Arizona fight and the fight that people have been taking on in Maricopa County is that a lot of different groups came together because we had a common enemy. Or we say we had a piñata. And that is the silver lining of this moment, is I think in progressive radical movements, social movements, we always talk about wanting to have a shared agenda. We haven't had a shared agenda. And what I've been feeling recently is like, how are we gonna get to a shared agenda if we don't feel like we have a shared political fate? Well, guess what? That's what we got right now.
I'm going to move on, but I do think that because you showed so much courage and you had people who were willing to take really, really serious risks, we're literally asking everybody else to take a tiny fraction of a percentage of the risk that your base took in this fight. How did you deal with the fear? Because I think what we have right now is a lot of fear. Can you just help me understand how you dealt with that and how your base dealt with that and what the stages were and the tactics?
I think there's, people have to be able to make individual decisions. It is a very personal decision, but I think we have to build collective structures of support. It is about leadership and organizations that are also willing to take risks. There was many times that we didn't know how things were gonna come out. We didn't know what was gonna happen. And people with the information and the collective support. So this is the best case, this is possible, this is probable outcome, this risk you might take. There's a spectrum. And here's the collective support we have.
And what did you have? What did that support look like?
Legal support, preparation, contingency plans, practice, people being able to get their personal things in order.
So
Where your kid's gonna go because you're locked up and your kid's gonna get out of school, who's gonna pick them up, that kind of stuff.
So right now you're on the sharp edge of the tip of the spear in terms of that direct action and that kind of support. But folks are scared they ain't even doing that.
Right.
So you must have, there must be something that you know about people. There must be something present in the culture of your organizing that helps people get over those fears. So rather than talking about, the lawyers, I mean, you sit with people. Like, how does that happen?
Here's the thing. In this case, we're talking about undocumented people. They live every day as civil disobedience. And so your stomach turns when you're driving and you look and this is not just undocumented people, right? I'm giving a specific example, but a lot of communities have this, your stomach turns when the cop's rolling up behind you. So it comes to a point, so it is political leadership. I think this is a micro example, but one thing that I think is a lesson of this moment is that we, in the progressive movement, have been risk averse, and there has not been, political leadership hasn't said, all right, let's do this. I think looking at, the Hillary versus Bernie question, so I think it's, people are already scared, and so you just get to a point where people make this is my reality, this is what could be my reality, and it's just like people being able to see the threshold and having those conversations, but political leadership and conscious organizers set the parameter so people see that there's a choice. And what I've seen time and time again is that when you get to the thing that you've been most afraid of, and you look it in the eye, and you know that something bad could happen, and you do it anyway, the people that cross that threshold, they are not the same. They are not the same coming out of that.
Well, Thank you for your work. So much to learn. Sometimes you're right, we don't pay attention to the red states, and we also don't pay attention to rural America and rural struggle. And I wonder if you'd be willing to share. I see them notes. Yeah, I'm not going to ask you no question that you thought I was going to ask you. So you just put them notes down. So what are your folks feeling in your network? Make sure people know about the great work that you're doing on the agricultural side, and what are the needs now going forward?
Well, from indigenous perspective, my people are inspired. We have actually been under attack, and we've been defending this homeland since 1492. And I can say today, we are still here. Woo! Historically, we have one of the largest gathering of tribal nations across the country. In fact, we have had tribal nations, indigenous people from around the world, traveling to Stand and Rock to stand with us on an issue to protect not only our sacred water, but Mother Earth, for ourselves, for our people, and for all future generations. And so we actually are looking at this moment and this time as a way that we feel that our ancestors have prepared us through time and through past battles, and we feel that we've learned. And through some of those battles, like the Battle of Little Bighorn and Wounded Knee, when we felt isolated and like we were standing alone, a call to action has actually went out from our tribal leaders and has been echoed throughout other tribal nations for everyone, not only the people in this room, not people of color, white people, everyone who cares about water is life, and Mother Earth, to come and stand with us. Let's stand in solidarity and coordination that we need to kill the black snake. How many of you believe that you can drink oil? We can't. Mother Earth is already getting sick. We know that from the fracking and all the tornadoes in Oklahoma and different places. And so we actually feel that we are in a space where we can hold this. We've been holding it, but we have to have your help. We have to have our allies to come and join us on these front lines to stand with us, because we can do this and we can win. So we're actually feeling somewhat, stronger.
What does solidarity look like? You said, stand with us, and people might think that means, retweet some stuff.
And we need that too. It's called #NoDapple.
Yeah.
So solidarity, and we've had this conversation over the past 2 days here in this space and multiple spaces. Solidarity is some of those organizing and coming to ground zero, the front lines. We actually have warriors that are in the water, standing, preventing the construction workers from proceeding. And many people have been arrested. There are others who are organizing, and they're sending supplies to help the camp to winterize. There are those who have GoFundMe accounts, who they're sending monies. There are sign-on letters. The solidarity, the movement is wherever you find that you and your resources can help to strengthen this battle. So there are many fronts that we feel that we're fighting on, because this is huge. Environmental, it also infringes upon our indigenous sovereignty. How many people know that the United States of America has broken every treaty that it's ever made with indigenous people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's time to honor the treaties. It's time to respect our nations. There are over 500 nations within this nation. So we actually have nation-to-nation relationships. So you can imagine what our tribal leaders are feeling in this time and space as we prepare to go in to have those conversations with a Trump administration, as well as the National Black Farmers Association. We actually have 3 memorandums of understanding, one with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, one with U.S. Forest Service, and another with the Environmental Protection Agency. And all those MOUs surround or build upon advocacy, outreach, and technical assistance for disadvantaged and underserved people because of the historical cases, the lawsuits that were won over discrimination. And I want you to know today that throughout those lawsuits and that legal battle, no one was ever reprimanded.
Wait, say it again.
No one was ever fired or reprimanded. How can you have that blatant findings of discrimination that nobody was ever fired or reprimanded? So that means those people kept their jobs. Some of them retired with full benefits. Many of you here today, so I want to address that. What can we do? You know, maybe in your local municipalities, you're being hindered from actually growing your own food, participating in agriculture, being able to meet the needs of your own families. I recently visited Chicago, and I went into, into an area, and they had a community garden, and they were growing and producing food that they could consume, but they were forbidden, they were banned from selling it. That is economic injustice. And it's until on these local levels, state levels, and federal levels that we remove these barriers and restriction that prevent people from being self-sufficient, you know, that we're not going to move forward. And I feel that that's the time and the space that we're in now where we can work together to address those issues.
Very good. Before y'all clap, wait, before you clap, hold on. So, you know, I know about your work, and you did a beautiful job of describing some of the resistance, some of the history, but you aren't just fighting against stuff, you're fighting for stuff.
Yes.
And I just want, before we go on to Glenn, I just want you to describe to people what you're trying to create with this beautiful work that you're doing on the land.
What we're trying to create is a greener environment, a sustainable economic environment where people can actually have the ability to provide for themselves and their families. A lot of people want to have access to local, affordable, healthy food. Some of the initiatives that we are helping to build is local access to food hubs, and we have means of supplying people to get growing and to how to participate in doing that. There are a lot of federal programs that you may be eligible for, however, you don't know about them, and that is systemic. And so those are the things that we're trying to grow. I tell everyone the largest crop that we grow is we grow farmers. And if anyone in here is growing a tomato plant, growing basil, any herb, anything, guess what? You are a farmer. And we want you to participate in the agriculture census of 2017. We want you to go to your local, I can do all this plugging. We want you to go to your local county FSA office, and we want you to get a farm serial number. Then you can get monies to grow your operation. There are grant opportunities out there up to $50,000 with 1.5% interest. There are housing loan programs within USDA Rural Development for no money down, and if you're low income, they'll subsidize the payments. But how many people are coming and knocking on people of color's doors, telling them about these programs and how to get involved? And so that's my job. My information is available, and we hope that you will connect with us and help us to let's get growing.
Yes. All right, now you can clap. Glenn, your organization is called the Center for Social Inclusion, so you must have just been toe up with someone. Give a round of applause to the organization, first of all. Beautiful organization. But, I'm sorry, my phone is doing something crazy. You know, same question for you. You know, such a powerful network, such a huge impact, and then this body blow. How are you feeling, and what do you think the needs are?
I appreciate the question. I just have to say, though, it is such an honor to be on the stage with such four powerful sisters. Humble in that way. You know, on a personal note, like everybody here, this week has been devastating. It's, I know I shared with Van, thank you again. I don't know how many folks caught Van's words on Tuesday and Wednesday, but it got me through the day, right? And on a personal note, you know, I spent the day just giving love to family, right, and to my friends. And I think in this moment, one of the things we just have been repeatedly naming is just the importance, you know, struck by King's words of power and love. And in this moment, we need all the love we can get, and we cannot lose sight of the fact that we need all the power that we can get.
That's right.
Right? And so in that way, over the last few days, I've been really, you know, just touched by seeing folks in the street. I know there were a few folks here in the street last night. And I think we need that. I think in this moment, we need to be really clear, right, that we don't compromise on misogyny or racism, period.
That's right, brother. Tell them.
And I would just echo what everyone here shared. In this moment, we're here, and Van, you said this, it's a white lash, it's a backlash against our success. And folks named so beautifully what the nature of that success is, which it's always been local. The change we want was never going to come from up high.
That's right.
We have been making those successes, having those successes, making that ground for at least the last 15 years, as Linda pointed out. And I think in that way, even as we're in this moment recognizing we know the ground has shifted, we know we have a fight for us ahead of us in the coming weeks, months, and years, but the reality is we have those wins. And I think in that way, it's so important in this moment that we hold on to what does local success look like, that we hold that we're going to have to be an active resistance, but that at the same time, it can't just be about resistance, right? It has to be about the larger vision that we have for the communities we want to live in. I want to name, we've been naming a lot of tensions, and I just want to name one. We do a lot of work with local government. And if you work for local government, will you make a little noise? I know some of you are in this room. I think it's really important that we recognize in this moment that one of our, not everywhere, but in many places around the country, one of our last lines of defense in this moment will be with local cities and counties.
That's right.
Right? That we are getting real, that they are in many ways the opportunity for us to stand in front of what we know is state authoritarianism, right? And increasing vigilantism. And, you know, whether so touched just this morning looking at both Los Angeles and New York have said, we don't care if you're going to pull our funding, we are sanctuary cities, right? Need that voice. And in this moment, we need, as Pramila shared, we need a congresswoman. That just touches me, or just being able to say it. We need in this moment, we need a strong inside-outside strategy, yes, right? It doesn't mean that our strategies, that we always have to be in agreement about what our strategies or tactics are, but we need to be clear about that we're sharing the same destination and vision. Right. And right now, you know, there's a mayor that is part of the Governor Alliance on Race and Equity Network. And I'm not going to name him because he hasn't made this public. But he met with a group of his police leadership and said, I'm watching you on social media, right? I want you to know that we are in a city that is inclusive. This is our community. And if I catch you saying these things, I will do everything I can to fire you, right? We need to build that inside-outside strategy that allows us, especially in this moment, to stand strong for our communities. I'll stop there.
Beautiful. Look, I'm just give me a second because I want to talk to him. So this has been kind of a warm bubble bath of race forwardness. But I think I would be letting this crowd down, and also there's people watching all around the world. You have focused on inclusion. Mm-hmm. There is now a growing critique of the racial justice movement, mm-hmm. that it seems to be tolerant of everyone except the intolerant, mm-hmm. and that it seems to be inclusive of everyone except for white, male, cisgendered, hetero, red state, et cetera. How valid do you feel that critique is? Is there something to be learned? Is it just denial? How do you struggle with this stuff every day. If you could make any tweaks or adjustments to the way that the racial justice movement is proceeding in light of this Trump victory, what might they be? Tricky question.
It's a beautiful question. It's maybe the most important question in this moment in my mind. This election was a referendum on race and democracy. There's no question about it. And one of the things that we have failed to do, I mean, let's be clear. Liberals didn't name race. We let the other side name race. Right? In explicit ways that were harmful and detrimental to our community. And every day, we go out and still are trying to make the case to liberal America about why we need to name race, right? That is a central challenge for us. Do not believe that we can get to an inclusive democracy without racial justice. It is not possible. It is at the root of who we are as a nation in many ways. And so I think that is one side of this contradiction, that we need to be much more explicit about being able to name race, right? And at the same time, Rinku Sen, I think a few of you may have heard of her before, has said, just some really, I think a really powerful thing, that in this moment we need to redefine our ideas of race. We need to be really clear that it includes white people, but that it does not center white people, right?
That's the key word.
And so I think we need these strategies that help white folks understand they are a race. I think we need strategies that we help folks understand that when we are naming race, that we are naming not only that we are naming racism as well as sexism, as well as homophobia, as well as Islamophobia. We need to have inclusive strategies in that way.
I just think this is the hardest part.
Oh.
Because I mean, my life is weird because I literally work every day with my opponent. That's what it means. If you're on CNN, if you're at Fox, if you're at MSNBC, it's not the same. But if you're at CNN, first of all, it's the biggest brand on the planet. You know, you get off a plane in Japan, Ghana, people know what that thing means. And because of that, we have both of us together always. So your coworker and your opponent are the same person for a year and a half in election season. Exactly, exactly. That's why therapy is so expensive. But what I learned was in my back and forth with, Jeffrey and Kaylee. First of all, these people are my friends. I care about them deeply. We just don't agree on anything. Right? And that's actually how it's supposed to be in this weird way. In a democracy, you don't have to agree with people. That's the whole point. Dictatorship, you have to agree. Democracy, you don't have to agree. So at that level, just the disagreement level, you should be able to have those relationships, but it's been harder and harder. But what I learned in dealing with these people, and I really want to come back over to this side, when we say someone is being racist, because of our understanding of the long history of structural injustice, and even just our understanding of biology and just subjective bias and how the brain just makes shortcuts and does all kind of weird stuff you aren't aware of, we're saying something bad, but we're really basically giving somebody a traffic ticket, right? It's not a good thing to say, but it's like we're basically saying, look, that seems kind of biased, what you just did. You don't want to hear it, it's not a good thing, but it's like a traffic ticket. For them, that sounds like 14 felonies with capital punishment, right? So we aren't even using, we talk about race, we're not even talking about the same topic when we talk about race. Agreed. We literally, so when they hear us say race, or frankly, they hear me say white lash, it lands like a bomb on them. This fragility. But it lands like a bomb on them. And they think we are accusing them of some horrific crime against humanity. And with, very little evidence.
Crimes against humanity.
And so they really resent it. And they fight. And I'm struggling because, I went to the home of Trump voters and sat with Trump voters. And we filmed it and we put it up. It's called The Messy Truth, because the truth is really messy. And it's not all this, it's not all that. There's hypocrisies on both sides. There's elitist blind spots on our side. There's bigoted blind spots on their side. It's messy. I just come back to you, Congressperson. We have to have, in the first move, solidarity among all the likely targets. That's always the first move. The demagogues always do the same thing. The people always do the same thing. The demagogues do the same thing. They promise the moon and get power. Then they fail to deliver. They start scapegoating people. That's what they do every time. So we know what their playbook is. Our playbook is also always the same. First solidarity, then resistance, then breakthrough. So we're running a pro-democracy movement against these authoritarians. That's what we're doing. That's what they're doing. This is all normal. But there's this weird thing I can't get my head wrapped around, which is that for millions and millions of Trump's voters, the idea that them voting for someone who is bigoted makes them all racist is actually consolidating his coalition. It's actually consolidating his coalition. It's actually driving more people toward him, because they're now saying, you're calling me a racist because of who I voted for. You are calling me the most horrific thing. And the right is now using that to organize them even more. How do you get your head wrapped around that as somebody in public office and public life?
I mean, I think that is the huge question. My district is predominantly white voters. And I am guessing that I had some people that voted for Trump that voted for me, because there were only 2 Democrats in the race. And I know we had huge support from working people, so a lot of labor unions. And we know that not all labor unions, white folks in labor unions, there were lots of Trump voters, and I've been having a lot of conversations with the unions about the deep work that needs to be done with their white working class folks on race. And that is, I think, really, really important. And the conversation we've been having is, and I think it might have been on this stage, either last year or the year before, when I was at Race Forward, where somebody said, we need to call people in as well as call people out. And I can't remember if that was you, Rinku, or somebody else. But I do think that's important. I serve in a state senate where I'm the only woman of color. And if you just shame people over and over again, you end up not being able to move anywhere. And so part of, I think, what we have to do is really have the discussion about what happens for somebody when you say race. When I say race on the Senate floor or with white folks, and I see you doing it every day. I see this happening, playing out every single day when I watch you. Not that I watch you every single day, but when I do, I see you doing it. And I love watching him.
Most of y'all just see it on Facebook or Twitter, so I know y'all ain't watching. That's all right. Go ahead.
But I think that understanding that leap, when we say something is institutionally race, there's institutional racism, or we even just say the word race, immediately what somebody says back, and I've been in this situation so many times, is, I'm not racist. Are you calling me racist? So we have got to figure out how we have this conversation about race in a way that allows us to recognize that what somebody hears is part of what we have to break down. That is part of what we have to break down.
This is the tension. I don't want to be, you guys are the smartest and the best in this field, and I don't want to be too easy on us. On the one hand, we want to be explicit about what we're going through, and we don't want to compromise with racism. And on the other hand, we want to figure out some way to actually speak and be heard, and not build Trump's coalition for him by the way that we're talking. And this is the challenge. How do you see it?
So can I offer in the middle somewhere?
Sure.
So could we agree that sometimes I don't have the heart, Just, I don't got time to explain to white people that Muslims deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, that young black people shouldn't be targeted or stopped and free. I mean, I'm just trying to get to a point. Could it be some of us that do the white people and then everybody else? I don't know. I just can't. Like, I don't got time. So I also want to say, so on that point, I think sometimes there's always this burden on the very most directly impacted people to try to also bring other people along. Like, I'm tired, man. Like, I'm tired of having to go stand in like an all-white church and be like, Muslims also believe in the same God that you believe in. And we're all the children of God. Like, I actually feel so small and so, I stopped doing that, by the way, but my dignity's taken away from me. Like, I don't want to, we should agree on some basic principles. But I do think that there still I think white people need to talk to white people, but there could be, and there are people within our communities that are just better at it than you. Like, Van can have that conversation. I don't know, it works. Some other people, Glenn might be, it works, but it just doesn't work for me. But I will say something else about when you talked about, when Glenn talked about local government and stuff. This is another problem that we have in the movement. I'm gonna keep it real too. Because even as someone I'm a community organizer, my loyalty is not to any political parties, it's to my people, right? That's where my loyalty first lies. But I also understand how stuff works. Like, I'm not naive either. Like, I know there are certain wins that we need and things that we need that we gotta work with the powers that be who are in office, who gotta do what they're supposed to do because they represent us. So what happens often in the movement is the minute they see Linda or Marisa or Glenn go sit in a meeting with a congressperson or a mayor, the first thing that the movement, some people, there they go, selling us out again, sitting at that table. But guess what? When you get a win like, special prosecutor, or we win some local legislation to protect immigrants, remove detainers and stuff, all of a sudden everybody's like, but you just called the sellouts for working with the opposition. You know what I mean? Like there gotta be some sort of balance in the movement that, again, we give each other benefit of the doubt, that when you go in there, that I'm not getting paid by no city council member or mayor or congressperson. You gotta believe that when your sisters and brothers go on the inside, they fighting for you. They're not selling you out. So that's a tension that I have. And I wanna say one last thing also about the different roles we all have. If you know history, we had the Martin Luther King, camp, right? Their people, there was that group, right? Then there was the Malcolm X types, right? So Martin Luther King was like, yo, y'all better do some stuff because them people over there, they ain't going, they even going after me now. It's okay for us to be super radical and some of us a little bit less radical. That's cool, I don't judge people because I know that we all got a role to play. We all know how to play different roles, but we gotta understand and respect that, right? So when Van is sitting with some, Trump supporters, I'm like, damn, that's my brother up there doing something I don't wanna do. He's doing that on our behalf. So I want you next time when you see people sitting in the White House or whatever, there's always this thing, oh, they're cooning, no, those are our children, those are your sisters and brothers, love them, understand them. They had a thought process before they went in there, right? So let's believe in each other and believe that we have our best interests at heart, because I bet you when we start doing that, we're gonna go way farther because we spend too much time criticizing each other than actually doing. And when we criticize each other, which is cool, it's so cool. I get criticized every day. Y'all can just Google me and see what people gotta say. It's plenty. But I don't got no problem with, maybe there's something I did, maybe I made a mistake. I'm human, Van's human, we're all human beings here, we make mistakes. But if you're gonna criticize me about something that I did that you don't think is right, you better offer me something else. You better give me an alternative. Don't just tear me down for what I did and then not give me something else to work with. So understanding our roles, understanding that there are local governments that we gotta work with, and guess what happens when you organize and you work? You get people and champions that were on the streets with us on the inside. That's what I'm looking at. If you wanna ask me what I'm doing, if the next question is what am I doing so you don't have to ask me again, I'm from New York City, and my eyes, New York City. Brooklyn, to be more specific, because it ain't the same. I'm in New York City. We have over 22 city council seats open. We gotta re-elect or not re-elect our mayor. We got a whole bunch of citywide offices. That's 2017, that's rehearsal time. Then you got 2018. We got an opportunity to Tea Party them in 2018. So put your eyes on the prize, and that's where I'm going, and that's what I'm doing.
I have one last question for you. Do you want a show? Because you kind of nice. You kind of nice. You kind of nice.
Therapy session, brother. Therapy.
Oh. I'm a, So I'm going to let you make one last point. We're going to hit you, and then I think we're going to be wrapping up.
I'm good.
You good? Like I said, we got to have a commercial break. Back to you after these messages. You're going to have the last word. I got the hook. So everybody was sad. We had one victory, and we also had your victory. We got somebody in, we got somebody out. You still don't have to go back to a pretty tough environment. Everybody here is going back to a tougher environment. What have you learned over this past several years of struggle that you think is the key of the key of the key for the resilience?
Take the risk and make the damn play.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.